All rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for joining. Looks like all board members are present. Who do we have online tonight, Carl?
We have online, we have Mrs. Spade, we have Mr. Schneider, we have Mrs. Herbert, that's in person, but then gonna go virtual. We have Mrs. Kaniga, we have Miss Gregory joining us online this time. So all the principals and Mrs. Spade.
Awesome, thanks. All right, we'll start the night off with the education report. Ms. Herbert will share the GMS goals and activities for this year.
Thank you for having me this evening. As you can see from our pictures, we've had a very active second semester. So our sports teams did really well. So we had some championship teams. That's what those pictures are. And then our Builders Club did some fundraising. And because of that, I ended up in jail for a day, as well as having to kiss a pig. And you would think that the kissing of the pig was the worst, but if you know me, putting me in one spot and being quiet all day, the jail was 10 times worse than kissing that pig. So I was excited that the kids earned the money and it went for good causes. So, and then as always, our mission statement, I like to include that every time just so that everybody knows what it is, but I do believe we are meeting that. We're striving for every student to receive the tools and resources necessary to become responsible, productive members of society. So our goals this year, we have iLearn, NWEA, and Study Island goals. We kind of talked about those last time, although I will go in a little bit more detail with them this time. Hope Squad is a planning year, so there's not a whole lot of gumption behind that one. It's just a lot of behind the scenes things. And then 7 Habits was the one we really went into discussion at the December board meeting, and then IPLI extended some of our activities that we've done through there. So our iLearn, as you all know, it's coming up. We start it next week, so wish everybody luck, particularly the kiddos. But we've done a lot with that this year, especially trying to overcome some of the gaps from last school year and then just having to move at a little bit slower pace at the start of this school year. So the teams have met, they've discussed areas of remediation needed, they've increased the rigor in all of their classes. They've done a lot of cross-curricular activities, and I foresee that to continue in the future. Study Island is our program, so the students take NWEA, and they take that 3 times. So they take it in August, and then again in December, and then we took it right before spring break. And so basically, when they take NWEA, it behind the scenes talks to Study Island, and it says, you know, this child needs to work on these skills. So then Study Island is where they kind of work on some of the skills that they struggled with, and they do that during their study skills time. And then we increased some of that during 3rd quarter, so not only was their iLearn going on during study skills, the teachers were also assigning grade level iLearn. So the Study Island iLearn from the NWEA may not be on grade level, it's wherever it's meeting them at their current skill level, versus the classroom Study Island is meeting them at grade level, because no matter what, they have to take the iLearn at the grade level that they're testing at. And then they have their goal setting and continued. We are really working on those pathways, and then that's going to come into something that I'm really excited about that we're working with the high school. And so our Hope Squad, basically, I know you guys have heard a lot from the high school about Hope Squad. We're in the process of trying to transition that down to the middle school level. We've talked to some other middle schools. There's not a whole lot that have it. So we're still kind of working out the kinks and what that's going to look like next year and some professional development. For our 7 habits of highly effective teens, I left all of them in there from last month in case you didn't get a chance to look at exactly what Mrs. Craig and Lindsay have been doing. but they've been meeting on the days that Lindsay comes in. They've been meeting on those Fridays with the study skills classes, teaching them just about how to be highly effective and skills that they can learn, not just for school, but just life in general. And then IPLI Extended is our culture activity. So we started this a little bit last year. It felt a little rushed, so this year's been a lot better. Last year they did 2 visits because we didn't start it until January. This year they've done 4, well, most of them have done 4. By the end of the year, they all have to do 4. So they do what we call, at the beginning, last year, they could do some in their comfort zone, which is their grade level or their content area. And then this year, they had to, last year they could do 1 and 1. This year, they had to do 2 and 2. So they couldn't just stay with their friends or their colleagues that they work with all the time. They had to get out and go see some other ideas. Particularly this year, the focus was a lot of technology because everybody was kind of doing virtual a little bit different. And then observations that myself and Bryce kind of do when we go around. This is in addition to their evaluations. So iLearn. One thing that we've been doing is we've been practicing, so I'm sure those of you that have kids in our building, it's gotten a little confusing with practice versus state practice. Last Tuesday and tomorrow, we are doing an altered schedule so that the students get the chance to practice writing for an extended period of time. Our class periods are only 45 minutes, but the testing sessions can go anywhere from 90 to 120 minutes. So they've never really had that chance to sit down and write for that long. So we're at least getting them that chance to practice. In the past, you might remember us saying that we did 4 and 5 of these sessions. We have found out that kind of burns the kids out. So we've gotten it down to 2 practice ones. We did 1 last week, 1 this week, and then that sets us up for hopefully the highest success will be next week when they actually take iLearn. This year, iLearn has switched it up, so language arts will go first. So we're gonna see if that also helps increase some of those writing scores. And then this Thursday, we actually have the state required iLearn practice. And so that one is different in the aspect that it's all the subjects that are tested, and it really goes in and they act like they're taking the test. The teacher logs them into the program, so they get practice. It's almost as much practice as to logging into the program as it is the content that they go over. The teachers are also using that content in math and language arts classes to kind of go over the detailed content so that they're prepared for those types of questions. But it has drag and drop questions and short answer, and it teaches them more how to use the program. And I kind of just went over all that, so I'm sorry. So I guess I was super excited about the next part. So the college and careers next year, and I know Jason kind of stole a little bit of my thunder when they talked, and since he's given it all to me as far as the responsibility to figure out how I was making this work, I'm taking some of my thunder back. So the study skills in 8th grade, it's kind of become a class where they get a little bit, they're starting to transition to the high school. We usually have around 90 kids that go over there and take classes. So Jason and Josh came to me probably November-ish and said, you know, there's this class, it's college and careers, but not every 9th grader has room to take it, and we feel like it would be something that they can learn about the pathways in a more spread out to where it's not a stressful time and every kid could take it. What do you think? So we were able to, we've had a couple of meetings about it, and I'm excited to say that every 8th grader will, we're kind of replacing study skills. So for example, 8th graders are really tired of typing. Whether they type well or not, that's a whole different issue, but they've learned their skills, good or bad, by that point. So instead of paying for the typing program and then spending 1 or 2 days a week typing, they're going to do some of that during the study. So their study skills typing time would be this class. In addition, Mr. Shealy had said that he kind of felt like he didn't have enough time to spend on the David Ramsey program for finances. And we've all talked about that at numerous board retreats. So this is a chance to spend some more time as they're a year older. It's kind of cute because a lot of them have like part-time jobs now. A lot of them get the jobs at Perfect when they're in the 8th grade. And so they're coming in and asking about the taxes that are coming out. So these are a perfect opportunity for every 8th grader to take this class. They will still do the NWEA testing in there. They will still have some opportunities to do the study island. But again, they've got that in addition to more time on the financial piece and more time on the pathways. And then they can come over from the high school and kind of demonstrate their classes. So the really great news is every 8th grader takes it and they're all getting a high school credit for it. So I'm super excited about that for next year. And then this slide is nothing new. You guys are used to that slide. It's just kind of what we talked about.
Jamie, on that, so when you said that, but they don't go over to the high school for this, correct? You got to do it here at this
It's
school,
going to be
correct?
here at the building. Mr. Shealy is going to teach it. So the way we made it work is the tech and art used to be 9 weeks, so they're each going to be a semester now. And then there's no business class in 6th grade or 7th grade. It's strictly the 8th grade, but they have it for the whole year. So yes, I am sorry, they don't go over. The only thing they'll go over for still, they will still go over for biology, and if they take a foreign language, and if they happen to be one of the few that takes geometry.
Great, thank you.
And then our department meetings, we've been building those. Some months they're in our PD time, and then a lot of times we still meet. But a lot of that has been, lately it's been preparing for iLearn. We wanted to make sure we placed the kids appropriately for their grouping and did the best that we could. We've been looking at why kids are struggling, not just that they are and it's their fault. And we're trying to work on that, especially this year with a lot of the virtual and then just some of it just being behind. Guidance activities, I've already talked about the majority of those. We did do our 5th grade orientation. We offered that, so many ways. We did an in-person, I did a Loom where I taped myself ahead of time so parents could watch it, and then if they didn't feel like they needed to come, they didn't have to. And then we also went live that evening. So we had a lot of opportunities for that. We had scheduling meetings. 7th and 8th grader, or next year 7th and 8th graders, all of their requests are in the computer, and we're working on getting 6th grade in. So we're actually ahead of the game with scheduling this year. And then the graduation plans, Mrs. Craig worked on those last week in study skills classes. And then coming soon, iLearn, that window, I don't want everybody thinking we're actually testing that whole time. We test all next week, and then 6th graders have 2 days the following week for science. If you want to see the egg drop, currently that date is May 10th. And then if it rains, May 11th. We did work out, we're going to do a band concert on May 11th. We're still working on the movies and field day. Unfortunately, there might not be a lot of movie choices this time, so we're working to see if we can still do that. And as always, we are getting creative with our awards day and 8th grade promotions.
Any questions from Ms. Herbert?
I know I talked fast, I'm sorry.
Seems like everything's going great.
Yes, I think it's been good.
How is our NWEA one? I mean, what is this, third year? Is that what we're in on it? I mean, what's,
This year's been a little unique because some students are taking it at home. So that's been unique because if they're virtual, they've been taking it at home. So the results have been a little bit different this year than in the past. And then also in December, when the majority of them took it, that was the one short time that we had that a lot of kids were on quarantine. So more took it at home. But we are still seeing a very good correlation of growth that they're showing, that sometimes iLearn doesn't always show, is that they are showing growth from winter or from fall to spring. We did have some talks with one particular grade that were afraid that they might not have taken it as seriously right before spring break. So we're looking and talking with Ms. Faith about possibly moving it maybe even 1 week up so that they're not in spring break mode by the time. Does that
So I guess,
answer your
well,
question?
but you covered a lot. I'm just like, over the last couple of years, is it is this way better than what we're doing?
Oh, yes,
Is it
yes.
like-
And Study Islands has worked. Now, we have been piloting a program here called iExcel. It seems that the students and the staff seem to like Study Island a little bit more than the iExcel. But yeah, I think the NWEA gives us a better sense of where the students actually are. And it's nice because they take it 3 times a year. So we get that middle of the year so we can kind of, if we're missing something, we can catch up on it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I was excited when it came in, where we never had that, where.
Yes. And it's really, I feel like it's better data than Island data. I know this is live, but.
Any other questions from this room? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on being
Yes,
recognized for District 10.
Thank you very much.
You wait for just a minute.
I will wait for a minute.
All right, moving on. Mr. Gailey will recognize staff and students on achievements and accomplishments.
Well, a few staff and students I'd like to recognize. First off, I've received Mr. Schneider received an email forwarded to me that the email says, I am a parent and have 2 sons who attend Lawrenceburg High School. One graduated in 2019 and one is a senior this year, graduated in May. I want to give some recognition to Angie Roulette. She's helped me in the last 6 years more than anyone, and she has always answered my questions, explained things, probably at least twice, when I couldn't remember how to do them, and generally always there and always with patience. She's helped with so many things over the years. It is much appreciated. She's a great employee, and her kindness and how she does her job should be acknowledged. Thanks. So from one of the parents, I want to recognize her on the email. Also, one of our basketball coaches at the high school level, he's our freshman coach, but also an assistant to the high school team, Steve Bradley, received the Transformation Coach Award from the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association. So I want to congratulate him on that. Also, wanted to let the board know that Sydney Castletine, our school resource officer at Lawrenceburg Primary School last week, was sworn in. So she has officially completed her requirements. So today she showed up this week with her shirt on and had all of her equipment and everything, and was sick. So she had to go home. She was not feeling well at all. So actually the nurse had to help take her home. So, but she is sworn in. She's got all her stuff ready to go. So excited about that. We're excited. Number 2, wanted to let the board know that a resident of Hidden Valley who is a retired teacher, wanted to remain anonymous, was looking to give back through the use of her stimulus money to the school corporation. And she had contacted me over spring break, and she said that she had been researching this product called LifeVac USA. LifeVac USA is a device that would be placed in our cafeterias, and it's used in place of the Heimlich maneuver. So it is basically a suction cup that you would place over a child's mouth, press down, and then push, and it would suction and basically pull out then, like a vacuum, then anything that would be caught in the throat and airway. So she had been researching that. She saw that Switzerland County Schools, the EMS, they had a grant, and they had purchased these devices, and she was asking if we would be interested here. So when I got back from the spring break, I had a conversation with our head nurse, also our food service director, and they were in favor of these devices. So I reached back out, and she purchased those today. She stopped in to donate those to the school corporation. So I have placed those in our head nurse's possession. She's meeting with the nurses Wednesday during our e-learning day, talk about them, talk about potentially, do we need to buy like a box or something to find a place to put them in the cafeteria so they're there and easily accessible. And then what we're looking at is potentially, it's only about a 3-minute video that trains you on how to use it. And we would take that, plug it into our Safe Schools videos that we give all staff at the beginning of the year to learn training or educational on different topics, we place it in there. That way all staff would receive a training on that. So wanted to give this anonymous donor credit for that and thank her for that. I told her I'd be mentioning that here at the board meeting, so I don't know if she's watching, but wanted to mention that. Also, then wanted to recognize our presenter tonight, our Greendale Middle School principal, was the Indiana Association of School Principals District 10 Principal of the Year for middle school principals. So I wanted to congratulate Mrs. Berger
Very much.
on that. And actually it was last Friday, we were in a meeting and she had made some kind of subtle comment to Bryce, the assistant principal, about something. And I thought I heard something about Principal of the Year. I wasn't sure. And then at the end of the day, somebody else said something and I had no knowledge of it. So I reached out and said, is there something you're not telling me? I said, I heard this information. She said, I didn't know if you saw an email from the Principal Association. I don't get all of their emails. I said, I didn't get it. And so she humbly then shared with me the news. So I said that I wanted, if she could. So I asked if she would share the email and I wanted to recognize her. I shared it with staff today and social media, but here at the board meeting, I wanted to congratulate her publicly and say thank you for your leadership here at Greendale Middle School.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without the students and the staff and everybody around me. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have at this time.
Thanks, Mr. Gailey. All righty. So now we're going to move on to financial items. Start with the fund report, including the cafeteria fund balance. It's informational only. Ms. Taylor.
Well, let's just look at the cafeteria fund balance first. All the ones above that are just fine. School lunch fund, you'll notice that we're still almost $65,000 in the red. However, that's a little more than $5,000 less in the red than we were last month. So we're chipping away at that. We did already receive the $68,526 for marked reimbursement from the state. So that covered that, but of course, we're still buying food. So, you know, we're kind of up and then we're down, we're up and down, but we're chipping away at it. So I think things are looking pretty good in food service and we're certainly going in the right direction. The rest of the funds are pretty much as normal. There are some little ones that we're trying to spend to get rid of, like kindergarten preparedness. We've got $500 in there. I think there's one fund we have 13 cents. So we're going to try to, you know, get those things spent and clean that up a little bit. But overall, we're looking pretty good on the fund report.
Any questions from Ms. Taylor?
Oh, we did submit, I'm sorry, I forgot about this. You know, the one fund I always say concerns me is that very last one, that 7944, which is the FEMA grant. They're still working on it. I heard somebody say the other day they are so far behind. So it's not just us. We did submit a second request for reimbursement to them. So we've got, I'm thinking it's, well, whatever this $162,000 worth of reimbursement request that we have submitted. We're just waiting for their wheels to start rolling.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
I would also share along with that too, money that's going to be coming in over the next 2 to 2.5 years will be the CARES money, the federal ESSER grant money that will be coming. As I had shared when we were talking about our projects with that, the ESSER CARES 2 money, we did get a final allocation amount, and that amount will be $933,933. So we will have just under $1 million from ESSER 2's grant money. We will have to give some of that to our Career Center because we will all have to contribute a little bit to the Career Center for that. But there's a $900,000 there. As I did say, that could be used if we wanted to consider it towards the project because of HVAC needs. But on top of this ESSER 2s, there's the ESSER 3s money that will be coming. And that is approximately what I'm hearing 2.5 times this amount. So we're talking probably around $2.5 million that we're looking at for the ESSER 3's money. They have not given us what those allocation amounts are yet, but I just wanted to kind of keep that in the flow. Now with the ESSER 3's, there is a 20% set aside towards remediation or learning or education. So 20% has to be targeted towards that. But I just wanted to kind of keep everybody in the loop that there will be a large amounts of money that will be coming in from the federal government that will have to make some decisions on how to spend that.
Can we use that to pay the Chromebook bill?
I'd have to look at if that's an allowable expense or not.
It's educational, I didn't know, so that's not maybe.
Well, and I think, but on the education, when they're referring to that, I think it's gotta be like direct student instruction, I believe. But there's a number, sorry.
Salaries.
You don't necessarily wanna put it where there's a cliff. Some schools are talking about like a bonus to teachers over the past year, and some of those. So some have talked about taking a piece of that, not obviously a huge chunk of it, but that is something that has been kicked around by school corporations is because of the past year and everything of giving a stipend rather than a base building kind of to teachers. Yes. So that is a possibility. There's a number of things. There's a number of webinars that are coming up over the next month that are going to kind of try and help guide schools on what are various things that could be considered uses for that. So I'll be participating in a number of those to look at that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to approval of claims. Can I get a motion, please? Mr. Milan. Second, Mr. Jansen. Ms. Taylor.
We didn't have anything that was out of the ordinary. I do apologize, we had to send an update this morning, but, you know, we had a payroll on Friday, and we didn't have those numbers available until late Friday. So we sent the update this morning with the FICA taxes and the retirement money and the 403B money. Everything else, I think you saw last Thursday or Friday. So does anybody have any questions?
I don't want to ask Ms. Taylor or Mr. Keeling. Cloud service, $8,600. Is that a yearly fee or?
That is through 5-star. So through 5-star, it is a service that we are changing. So rather than having everything here on our servers here, we compared the cost and it's almost dead even whether we were to buy new servers and host it here or move it to them through and have it hosted in the cloud. So therefore, that's where we kind of moved that direction into that.
Is it 5-star actually provider of that, or are they sourcing that out to another data storage company?
Ooh, I gotta think of how that is. Lucas, do you remember if the cloud hosting of all of our stuff, when we're moving from the local server sites here to cloud hosting, is that directly hosted by 5-star?
No, it's not directly hosted.
So a third-party vendor?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
And
You're welcome.
that cost, there was a $6,000 setup fee, and then it's $1,300 a month, and so we paid March and April.
So it's $1,300.
$1,300 on.
Right after that initial setup.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor of approving the claims as presented, please raise your hand. Looks like 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to routine business minutes for approval, March 8th, 2021, regular session as presented. Can I get a motion? Mr. Kaniga. Second, Ms. Riley. Anybody have any questions regarding the minutes? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes? It's like 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to personnel items, start with appointment. Can I get a motion, please? Mr. Miller. Second, Ms. Name. Mr. Gale.
Included in your packet, you have recommendations for personnel for new hire. Julie Slicer, CES, long-term sub, ROD IA, through the end of the school year. Matt McCool, LHS JV baseball coach with an effective start date of 3/29/21. Jesse Browning, LPS secretary, effective start of 5/1/21. Jody Gilmore, CES bookkeeper secretary, effective start 3/29/21. Kate Pritchett, LHS part-time bookkeeper, 3/18/21. Taryn Mockbee, CES Corporation IA, 4/19/21. Emily Callahan, CES second shift custodian, 4/12/21. Chandler Graves, GMS head custodian, 5/17/21. I make recommendations of those.
Questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 7-0. All right, going to resignations, this is information only, Mr. Gaylor.
Included in your packet resignations received from Andy Heine, LHS varsity softball coach, 3/31/21. Kendra Jenkins, CES second shift custodian, 3/16/21.
All right, any questions? Moving on to transfers, also informational only, Mr. Gaylor.
Misty Weiss, transferring from LPS 5-hour cafeteria worker to 7 hours at Lawrenceburg Primary School cafeteria with an effective start date of 3/8/21.
Questions, comments? Moving on, professional travel, also informational only. Any questions or comments regarding professional travel? All right. Moving on to field trips, can I get a motion, please? Mr. Malone. Second? Mr. James. Mr. Gately.
Included in your packets, you have 2 field trips. You have one for CES 5th grade. These are both next school year. So that will be Camp Kern for 5th graders, 9/9/21 to 9/10/21. So that's in the fall when we come back to school right after Labor Day weekend. So yeah, right after. And then LHS students, Europe trip. This will be next spring break on 3/17 to 3/26/22. I recommend those for approval.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 7-0. Moving on to fundraisers, can I get a motion, please? Schreiber. Second, Mr. Kaniga. Mr. Gary.
Included in your package, you have fundraisers, GMS Builders Club, donation to Clearinghouse, 4/19 to 4/23. Boys basketball, youth basketball camp, 5/3 to 6/4. Girls basketball, youth basketball camp, 5/3 to 5/27. Football, youth basketball camp, 5/11 to 5/14 and 6/7 to 6/10. Baseball, youth baseball camp, 6/1 to 6/4. Volleyball, youth volleyball camp, 6/7 to 6/11. Girls basketball, a summer shootout tournament on 6/16. Boys basketball, summer shootout tournament, 6/18 and 6/19. Volleyball, Tiger Showdown, 6/23. I recommend those for approval.
Questions? Comment? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 7-0. Moving on to new business, start with approval of ENA as a dedicated fiber internet provider for the 36-month term, starting 7/1/21 and running through 6/30/24. Can I get a motion, please? Mr. Kniga. Second. Ms. Names. Mr. Galen.
At our last board meeting, we had approved ENA for a 5-year term for fiber internet provider, but it was contingent talking to the city to see if they could provide the service to us. Unfortunately, the city can't provide it to us at this time. They're not prepared with everything. They couldn't provide it to us for free, number one, based upon what their current structure is. And number two, they wouldn't be able to bid on it because they don't have a state vendor number to be able to bid on it, to make that bid. So therefore, I met with 5-Star, we've come back. The city believes they would be in a position to be able to bid on it in 3 years. So therefore, we are recommending a 3-year term for fiber internet service through ENA is the recommendation.
Questions, comments? All those in favor of approval of Xena as the dedicated fiber internet provider for the next 36 months, please raise your hand. 7-0. Next would be approval of matrix integration for network infrastructure equipment using E-rate category 2 funding. Make a motion, please. Mr. Jansen. Second, Mr. Miller. Mr. Galen.
In your package, you have all of the quotes from the bids for the network infrastructure equipment. This is using E-rate category 2 funding, where we would pay a percentage of that. So therefore, you can see within there that matrix based upon this was the low that is being recommended by 5-star to accept their bid.
Any questions or comments regarding the network infrastructure equipment? All those in favor, raise your hand. 7-0. Approval of the 2021 3-county schools city grant proposal letter. Can I get a motion, please? Mr. Malone. Second, Ms. Ryder. Mr. Gailey.
Included in your packets is a letter. This is very similar to each year in the springtime that the 3 school corporations in the county, as well as St. Lawrence, approached the city of Lawrenceburg in their budget, in their line item. They have $750,000 earmarked for the 3 county schools and St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence receives $15,000, and then the remaining is split between the 3 school corporations, which is $245,000. The letter outlines that. It outlines some of the costs that we have used the money in the past for and potentially for the future, as well as potential other things listed there. I do have the letters already from the other 2 school corporations and St. Lawrence. So if our letter is approved tonight, I will send all 4 of those letters over to the city. And then if approved, then generally after that, then all 4 of us attend a city council meeting to thank them for their contributions to the schools.
Any questions regarding? All those in favor of approving the 3 county school grant proposal letter? Raise your hand. 7-0. Moving on to approval of Trafera Chromebook bid to replace the outdated Chromebooks. Can I get a motion, please? Ms. Nance. Second, Mr. Malone. Mr. Gale.
I had emailed today and I was hoping the board would entertain this additional motion to the packet included. I've made hard copies that are in front of you, so if you wanted to look, if you didn't have a chance to see the email this afternoon, it is also loaded online to the folder that's online, but I also brought hard copies for everybody. So you can see the breakdown of the 3 vendors. Trafera is Trinity 3, which has been our current vendor that we currently use. And then SHI, within their proposal, they had 2 bids. So they had 2 different bids within their proposal, and I've included both of their proposals. So with SHI, within their proposal on page, I believe it is 12 and 14 is their 2 proposals, and which is towards the very back. It's the last 3 pages within SHI's. You can see the breakdown of their cost. The things that are listed there, at the very bottom, it talks about additional comments, and it says a 4-year warranty includes, and at the top of the next page, it has listed what's included in that 4-year warranty. And it has listed there the advanced exchange. What that is when we have devices that are broken, they will send us loaners before sending us those. So that's the advanced exchange, which keeps then the cycle going, and in the downtime is low. Also listed there is 1 battery replacement per device is listed there. Well, if you can see, that's on their higher quote, the $599, $261. If you flip the page then and go to their second quote, and you look at the bottom at the additional comments, it does not have listed the advanced exchange or the battery replacement. I asked Lucas earlier today what a battery replacement, because we probably replaced batteries in all of our devices over the past 4 years. He told me a new battery is $35. So if you take the $35 towards the 1,295 devices that we would be buying, that's about $45,000 in batteries. So when you look at that, and when you look at Trinity or Trevera's cost, they actually have a battery replacement in their cost. So therefore, my recommendation would be going with Trevera Trinity 3, because if we were to put a battery in SHI's low bid, then that's going to put them up closer to and over $600,000 if you look at that. Also, I would also say that Trevera Trinity 3, and we have our lead tech here from 5-Star, would say that they are very pleased with the service over the past 4 to 5 years that we've had with Trevera/Trinity 3, and would love to keep that service if possible. So my recommendation would be Trevera Trinity 3 for that.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Gale? Any comments? All right, so, all those in favor of approval of Trevera for the Chromebook replacement? Raise your hand. 7-0.
Thank you for allowing me to add that tonight. It allows then our tech department to get those ordered a month now in advance. That way, because already we're unsure about what that timeline will be, because computers are still kind of a commodity that is still kind of looking at. So this will help them to be able to get those ordered as quickly as possible. And then I've got later on talking about our current stuff and everything.
All right, moving on to citizen participation. If there's anybody in the audience, which we only have one guest tonight, or anybody on YouTube that has any questions or comments, please go ahead and speak up, and Mr. Gailey will kind of monitor as we go on.
Yeah. Currently, there's 11 still in here watching currently, but no comments or questions have been made yet at this time.
So we'll start with principal comments here. We'll start with Ms. Spade. She's on there live.
Hi, thank you so much. We are just excited to be heading into some professional development on Wednesday. The buildings have a variety of things to do, from preparing to get ready for construction to LPS is welcoming in our new class of kindergartners. I feel like our dual language projects are well on their way. Other than that, it's business as usual. I think we've got iLearn ready into buildings. We have IAM testing. We have biology, ECA. It just feels good to be back in the spring of the year in schools. And I also want to congratulate Mrs. Herbert. I can't think of anyone more deserving to be the principal of the year at the middle school level. Have a good night.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Spade. I'm going to go ahead with Ms. Gregory now.
Good evening. We are excited that 34 days left in our school year. We are counting down each and every. As Mrs. Spade mentioned, we have a big event coming up on Wednesday. It is our kindergarten roundup, and we are making last preparations. We are super excited that we already have 116 students signed up to come on Wednesday. It is Wednesday from 8 to 7, and it's by appointment only. And again, there's 116 appointments for Wednesday. We are also recognized this week for our Mark Liddy Awards, and we recognize in the areas of math, reading, writing, and good character. We had a great deal live on April 6th from our new partner, and it's the
Thank you, Ms. Berger. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Berger? Thank you. Moving on to Ms. Herbert.
Hi, everyone. Just a reminder for any parents that are listening this evening, just make sure that your kiddos are ready for all the practice testing and testing next week. We will have some dress-up days that we will announce, and they definitely need those headphones. So if you haven't got them in, please do so. Thanks again for all the kind words from everybody. Again, I couldn't do it without all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert. Ms. Kniga.
Good evening. I also want to echo and say congratulations to Ms. Herbert on her award and the earbuds. So we also need those essential. Next week we do start ILEARN testing. So we have that for about 3 weeks based on all of our students have accommodations and the amount of tests that we have to take in grades 3 through 5. This week we did induct another group of kids that have 100 blue ribbons in Study Island. That was one of the goals that we encourage students to do. We've also been working hard on our guaranteed vocabulary. Those are the academic vocabulary words students need to know in grades 3, 4, and 5 for reading and math. And so if they meet the goal, which is over 80%, Mr. Liker and I get to be in the duck tank. So we will wait and hope that that happens on a very warm day that all the students get that award. We are also excited for the training on Wednesday. Project Lead the Way is STEM science. I know you are familiar with it, with what the high school does with it. And we are looking to add that into our science curriculum for next year. So we have some training. Teachers were a part of a staff meeting, as well as some future trainings and some training in June, so that we can launch that in August of next year. We're looking forward to our end of the year activities with trying to do some normal things, modified of course, for field day and awards day and spelling bees. So just looking forward to having a great end of the year at Central.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kniga. All right, moving on to Mr. Snyder.
Yes, thank you. Once again, I told Jamie congratulations earlier today, but I do want to echo that once again. That's a wonderful award, and she works very, very hard. So kudos to her for that accomplishment. Also want to go right into tomorrow and see Wednesday night. Wednesday night we do our academic medallions, Jackie Anderson, and also our National Honor Society and Spanish Honor Society inductions will all be in the main gym, 6:30 Wednesday night. Then we jump right into freshman orientation. That's going to be 5:30 in the GMS gym. That's going to be Thursday at 5:30. We've had a lot of meetings on the prom. We're all excited about the prom being on the 24th, and we're going to have a tremendous turnout. We've got over 300 so far signed up to go. We're going to do the walkthrough at the park. We've had a lot of communication with the city of Lawrenceburg, and once again, they're coming through like champs to help us out. They've got a good, fun event for a memorable event since it's been a while since we had a prom. So excited about that. Spring sports is off and going well. We've been having excellent showings. The different teams are doing quite well, so we're very excited about that. It's going to be an ongoing good spring sports season. Scheduling, wrapping up. We've got the freshmen to do, but the bulk of the other children students are done. So we'll be able to, once we get the future freshmen taken care of, then we'll be able to put a master schedule together, and looking forward to that because we've got some new exciting curriculum and courses, so it's going to be great for us. But probably the most intriguing of it all is getting ready for the different moves for the wonderful remodeling projects that's coming around. So with all the remodeling that's going to happen in the high school, the teachers have been very excited and attentive to what we need to do to get ready for that. And really appreciate Carl and Andrea giving us time Wednesday to do that and to organize some more movement. A lot of teachers have already been working on it, but that'll help us even more so that we can get that wrecking ball ready to go by June 1st. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Moving on to superintendent comments, Mr. Gale.
Yes, a few things just to share. Going along with the replacement of the Chromebooks, I've had a conversation with Mr. Reederman, and he reached out to Trinity, kind of had some discussions about what the price range for our current Chromebooks value. Refurbished prices range from $110 to $180. For ours, though, he would aim more of the $80 to $90 range, since they're still covered by Google security updates over the next, he believes, one more year for that. So based upon that, I'm gonna put together a recommendation and come next month with that. One of the reasons I want to wait, and they want to wait, is they want to wait until we get the order in for our replacement Chromebooks and make sure we're going to be able to have our new ones in time before we would turn around and sell them. So they want to get an estimated timeline of knowing, are we going to get the new ones in before we turn around, sell all our Chromebooks off. So that's one reason why I don't want to mention right now, hey, this is what we're thinking and recommendation. I'm hoping to have that at our May board meeting where I can say, hey, the anticipation is our new Chromebooks should be in this time during the summer, XYZ, and then we should be able to have a proposal. So that's the goal with the current one. So I'll keep you in the loop on that. Also, the high school has shared that going through different things and looking at things, there is no need right now for an auction at the high school. A lot of the stuff they have is just kind of broken type items, desk and different things that are one-off that really just need to be kind of trashed. So we are bringing in a dumpster over the next week, that things that don't have necessarily asset tags on them, that we can start to kind of move to create some of that space that we're looking at that. The Lawrenceburg Conservancy District, you have my email from before spring break. I'm just gonna leave it that I just don't feel they support the schools. How about I'm just gonna, on a public meeting, make that comment that I just do not feel they support the schools. So I think there was some comments that were made during that meeting that were very inaccurate by their attorney from previous things. There were two board members there from the time when things happened. Mr. Knig was there, as well as one of their board members, Greg McAdams, was there. I do want to give and acknowledge Mr. McAdams. He did try various ways to encourage their board to support the schools if it was possible, but the other members of their board did not seem to have any desire to do that. Encourage, especially Dr. Richter, in my opinion, who was leading that. So,
Mr. Gale, I also wanted to say I do appreciate Mr. McAdams' support, and you guys see my response on the email. I'll just leave it at that.
the Greendale Redevelopment Commission, they will be having a public hearing on April 20th at 5:30. It is to kind of finalize their Tanners Creek project and start looking at, I guess, a distribution of funds to be able to start that project. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. If I have time, I will try to make that meeting, but we've already kind of, we're, I think, past that point. Included at your things are hard copies of the end of the year events for each of the schools. So you can see listed there. Shannon put that together, contacted all the principals, received all that information, that you have end of the year activities that are going on in each one of the schools. If something comes up and you're unsure, don't hesitate to always reach out if I can do that. We're going to send a survey. I talked with Mr. Johnson earlier today. We're going to send a survey out tomorrow to all staff to kind of gauge the interest in an end of the year like dinner recognition, or if they would rather have like a gift certificate instead, given that we're still kind of in that kind of in between kind of time right now. So we just wanted to gauge what that kind of would be and what that percentage before a decision was made one way or another. So once I have that data, I'll share it out with the board too, so you have that data once it's collected. Graduation, I know that Mr. Schneider is chomping at the bit. I know that we have approximately 65 seniors that are chomping at the bit, one being my daughter, one being Mr. Milan's daughter, that are, I think, ready for the next month and a half. But Mr. Schneider's really ready because he wants to get the information out to families because he's received a number of calls. And Mr. Elison, Dr. Elison from the health department has approved kind of our tentative plan. We are looking to do it inside the gym, 50% capacity. So 50% capacity of the gym is around 1,400. When you look at that, we are looking at 6 tickets per graduate. So if you take 6 tickets per graduate, that puts us just under 1,000. Then you have the 165 graduates. Then you have approximately 15 board members, administrators. You have about 50 choir band members and 25 other staff members. That would put us around 1,300 when you factor those numbers together. So we're still right there at that 50% capacity. So we should be okay given that everything remains the way it is. So that is what we are going to announce pending current situations. If obviously things were to change in the county, then Dr. Gilson would be coming back to us and we would have to pull back on that if we need to. Those tickets would not be handed out until we would be very close to graduation to know if that's exactly what we can set on. But that's what we are going to be announcing at this time, pending our current climate. Questions on any of that?
It could go higher if things.
No, that's where we would be, because when you're looking at 50% capacity, 1,300, that puts us right there at that number.
Things got better, so on and so forth.
Excuse me?
If the color code or whatever.
We're at the lowest at blue right now, and that's where they're saying 50% capacity. Right.
I didn't check the color this week.
Yeah, your question.
Mr. Gill, it's something Mr. Snyder said. So you're having teachers starting to move stuff and do things now. So where are they moving that stuff to? I mean, are we going to have classrooms like in the gymnasium?
It varies, so yes. So it is going to be, we will have some that will be in the auxiliary gym, but then looking at the different floors that we are not. So we're starting on the 4th floor, and then from the 4th floor coming to the 2nd floor. So depending upon where we're at, we're able to move a few teachers to other floors, because we have the old office area we can use. We have a tech area that we can use to move them out of time temporarily. So we are going to be moving them around to open areas, as well as utilizing the auxiliary gym too, through the time period.
How many classrooms are you going to have in the Aux gym or plan on?
I haven't looked at their exact plan right now, but we could potentially have around 4 classes if we wanted to have them in there, if we sectioned off the auxiliary gym. We were in here, I remember when we did renovations to middle school, that we had 2 classrooms, myself and Mr. Pratt were here in this commons area.
So we're going to shut down the Ox Gym for 2 years.
We will potentially, we're hoping it would only be 1 year, because the 4th floor and the 2nd floor, which is our largest area that we will gain classrooms, will be done in a year, 4th and 2nd floor. We've already looked at that, and given that our gyms that we have, we went and shut down the entire main gym for an entire year, was able to live off of what we had throughout the corporation. So we're only talking the auxiliary gym at this time for that time period. But that's all been discussed with the athletic department too.
Any other questions about the noise?
There will be, obviously it's not going to be ideal. There's not going to be any ideal situation.
I didn't know if we looked at the trailer, some schools. The mobile trailers, how much that would be. I don't know if we looked at that avenue. Because with the construction, it's going to be loud enough in the school, much less in one big area. I didn't know if that's something we looked into. That's just my thought.
We've talked about it. We haven't looked into what the cost would be for those. We just felt we had the space and could utilize the space within the schools for that time.
Just asking.
It's not necessarily that if it got terrible, if we got into the period and it got terrible, that we couldn't go down that road if we needed to as well.
All right, start with board comments. Mr. Kniga.
Yeah, just a couple things. Would like to thank the anonymous donor, whoever that lady is. Thank you for, on behalf of the board. It's nice that somebody wants to do something. It's very, very appreciative. Mr. Gailey, a couple of questions for you. You and I spoke, I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday you were in, and we talked about House Bill 1005, and there were some things that went back and forth. Can you give us a brief update, and I'll ask my next one.
Sure. So House Bill 1005, basically when it went to the Senate didn't look at everything, but they put into their budget bill is where they ended up moving their things that we talked about when we're talking about the expansion of vouchers, and we're looking at the creation of educational savings accounts. Basically what happened is they put it into the budget bill, so the Senate side of it did reduce the amount that they were first anticipated to consider in there.
That was like 170 million,
Well, they were looking at a household threshold of
Of
100, yes, and then they were looking at, it was around 140 to 170 million were those numbers. They've come drastically down on that and on the educational savings accounts. They are looking at only special education at this time would receive those, not universal savings accounts for anyone in general. So they've significantly reduced those amounts, but it is still expanding and creating those two items. So there is still language in there. I mean, the only way to take that out is for them to vote the budget down. And they knew that. They were intentional, that they knew that they got pushback from school corporations. Now I'm hearing that close to 200 school corporations in the state have adopted resolutions and sent to their legislators, letting them know that they are not in favor and do not support that, which I forget the number, that if you estimate that if that's close to 200 school boards, and if you have 5 to 7 members on each of those school boards, those are locally elected people. Each one of you sitting here was locally elected by the people here in the community. And therefore you were voicing your concern to our legislators at the state level saying, this is what we do not support at the local level. And although they still decided to put it into the budget bill at a smaller amount currently right now.
Do you know when that vote's scheduled to happen?
They are looking at the end of it. Next week is the end of the session. They had talked about wanting to end the session a week earlier, which would make it the end of this week. So it has to be this week or next week that votes would take place. So, right, so your last chance to contact your legislators and say, we do not support this, therefore, vote the budget down and take it out of the budget. That's the only thing they would. Realistically, is that potentially going to happen? They have a super majority, and for some reason, they're not listening to a lot of the local people that are contacting them.
I don't understand one of the emails we received from you, how 43% is a majority of a survey.
I've asked for the numbers. I've asked for what the numbers are. So to answer his question, if the public's listening, is that one of our state senators, Senator Rotz, had responded to my email and said he feels he has his constituents' support for the creation of educational savings accounts and the expansion of vouchers, because he sends out surveys every year to his constituents. One of the questions, and I believe it was 2017 and 2018, and I could be wrong on those years, but 2 years back to back, he sent out a question that was about educational savings accounts for special education. Then there was a 2-year gap when he didn't ask the question, and in 2019, he sent out a question asking about universal educational savings accounts. In the ones for special education, they came back 73 and 74% in support. When he asked the universal educational savings account question, 43% said they were in favor. So my question back was, how does 43, because their stance was to start universal educational savings accounts. So my question back was, how does 43% support universal educational savings accounts? And then I asked, what are the specific numbers? You send those surveys out to all of your constituents. How many do you get back? And so therefore we can look at how many voters are there, because we can look at the last election and see that there were about 15 to 17,000 voters in his district that voted. So how many of them filled out the surveys, and what is that as kind of a percentage? So we can really see what those numbers all look like. But I haven't received information back or reply yet.
Probably 6 out of
It's
13.
on the way.
So,
Thank you very much. I just, and if that vote comes up, if you could.
as soon as I hear something, ISBA, do you guys get the emails from ISBA saying stuff? So I know Terry has been very good at trying to keep ISBA people informed about that. But I will, as soon as I see something, I'll forward something out too.
Thank you.
Ms. Nance.
I just wanted to echo how great Angie is in the gym.
Mr. Miller.
Caught me off guard there. I would just like also to thank the donor. That's awesome, someone to do that, and Angie and Ms. Herbert, congratulations. That's all I have.
Mr. Jansen. No comment. Ms. Ribble.
I'm basically echoing what Mr. Mueller and some of the others have said. Just congratulations and thanks to the donor. It's very nice.
Thank you, Mr. Ribble. Mr. Milan, I'm sure you have a mouthful.
One thing I would say is I echo what all the rest of the board members said. Thank you to everybody. Congratulations to everyone, and look forward to seeing these kids graduate.
Thank you, Mr. Milan. I have a comment. So that will adjourn the meeting for this evening. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody online for joining. Thank you.
For all these,